We really appreciate everybody coming on today. It's such an exciting time when we get to explore the developments that are going on in our city. I'm going to introduce our panelists. First, we have the president of the Staenberg Group, Michael Staenberg. Michael pays meticulous attention to the detail on every project, including design, construction, leasing, and management. Known for his endless energy and competitive edge, he leads the company with dedication and passion. Michael understands that the simplest decisions impact the experience of the people coming to a shopping center, and his involvement goes on the extreme from insisting upon energy-conserving white roofs to choosing planters that are attractive to shoppers. He is equally passionate about philanthropy and not only generously gives his funds, but his time and expertise to help others in the community. Next, we have Timothy Lowe. As Vice President of Leasing and Development, Tim has the primary responsibility to lead, direct, and oversee all leasing and development activities for the portfolio, including third-party brokerage services. Prior to the Staenberg Group, Tim spent over 25 years with Westfield and CBL. His major accomplishments include the redevelopment of several regional shopping centers across the country, leasing the Airport Concession Management Division at Westfield, which developed, leased, and managed retail and food and beverage programs at various major U.S. airport locations, and the negotiation and acquisition of the retail space lease at the World Trade Center. He is a graduate of the University of Missouri St. Louis with a bachelor's in business administration with a major in accounting. Tim is passionate about giving back to the community and advises several St. Louis nonprofits. All right, next we have Mike Doster. Mike Doster is the land use attorney and is a member of the firm's business, real estate, and estate planning practice group. Over the course of his career, he has been a member and has leadership roles in many civic, service, trade, and charitable organizations. Currently, he limits his active involvement to organizations which promote community and economic development. Last but certainly not least is our moderator, Brian Karp. Brian, the Chief Operating Officer for the factory, is a seasoned venue executive who brings decades of experience to the project. Brian has been instrumental in the design and development of the factory. From the time Brian entered the industry, his focus has been on the guest and band experience of the venues he has operated. Those venues include the world-famous Fox Theater in Boulder, Colorado, a venue named one of the top 10 clubs in the country by Rolling Stone during Brian's tenure at the facility. He went on to help merge the Fox Theater with Boulder Theater and became the COO of Z2 Entertainment. Prior to relocating back to St. Louis, Brian oversaw the operations of the House of Blues in Anaheim, California. I hope I said that right. And the House of Blues in Dallas, Texas. And with that, Brian, I'm going to pass it over to you. Oh, I'm sorry, Mike. I think you're going to be talking first. So there we are. Mike, I think you might be on mute.
I'm on mute. No, Mike Doster.
No, you're ready. Michael, you're going to give us a brief introduction on the district.
Okay. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. And on behalf of myself, Tim Lowe, Mike Doster, Brian Karp, and the Staenberg Group and the district and the factory, we're really pleased that everyone's here today. We're really excited about what we've created in Chesterfield. To start with, a little history. Everybody remembers the 1993 flood that had anti-guns under 11 feet of water. The entire valley was there. And one of my assignments was to figure out how to get Walmart and Lowe's into Chesterfield. And I remember meeting Lou Sachs at the mall. And he said, come with me. And we stood on the bridge right by the DoubleTree and looked down there and saw 11 feet of water. And he says, there's your next opportunity. He wouldn't put me by the mall. And I thought, this guy is crazy. But in 1995, we undertook that and we built Chesterfield Commons. And today it's still the longest strip shopping center in the United States. From one end to the other is 2 miles, has 2.6 million square feet and does about $850 to $900 million of business. And that was really the start of what we're creating here. And you say, how could that be the start? About 10 or 11 years ago, I had known Billy and Bobby Taubman from the ICSC. And they came to me and said, we need an easement to the interchange and we need some sewers. And we'd like to get this done. And I said, that'd be great. I have two requirements. One, you pay your fair share of the interchange maintenance, and two, don't take any of my tenants on the commons. And of course, David Simon, who built the other outlet center, came to me and said, well, we'll offer you money not to do that. And I said, my word's my bond. I've already shook hands with the Todman boys, and I'm going to move forward with them. So about 3 or 4 years ago, I usually get to the ICSC at about 7:38 before everybody gets there and sits in the booth. And waiting for me was Billy and Bobby Todman. And they said, we have a proposal for you. We want you to buy our, quote, the outlets. And I said, well, I'm not sure what I would do with it. And they said, no, we're going to make you such a deal you can't say no. And so we started negotiating, Tim Lowe and I, and we bought the outlets from the Todmans. They're still a partner in the deal, a minority partner, but we reached an agreement. And then it was our idea what to do with it. And as everybody knows, the Commons has about every retailer in America. So before the pandemic and before anything started, we said, what can we create that's unique? Before they said retail is dead, we call it retail is emerging or reimagining. So we said, how do we do something? So I had this brilliant idea of creating a, quote, entertainment district. I didn't know what that meant. And one of the things that happened was Brian Karp came into my office because his mom I've known forever and says, I'm relocating back to St. Louis and I'd like to be in the music business. And I said, interesting. I know nothing about the music business, but let me get back to you. And that got my ideas kind of churning in my head. And I said, why not build a music venue? So I called Brian back and Steve Shankman of Contemporary Productions. And I said, well, what are we going to do here? Why not build a music? Because there was 5 or 6 acres of vacant ground next to the outlets. And I said, we could turn this into an entertainment district. And I said, instead of calling it an entertainment district, let's just call it the district, because it can be for, as they say, play, eat, rock. It can be a lot of different things. So we started working on the district that way and decided to go from the ends, I call it the dumbbells, the weights, and work our way in and to try to figure that out. And that was the beginning of the district. So we're excited to present that to you today. There's about 400,000 feet there today. We'll probably end up with about 250 to 300,000 feet. And we'll talk about what our vision is for the district and the factory. And we wanted to keep things simple. Everybody can remember where the district is, and everybody can remember where the factory is. So we kept names that were descriptive, but let your imagination take you to wherever you want to go. And one of the things I learned when I built Chesterfield Commons was that I built the interchange, Boone's Crossing. And believe it or not, within a 24-minute drive of I-64 or Highway 40 and Boone's Crossing, there's 1 million people that can get there in 24 minutes to that intersection. So I figured this would be something that we could create that would be unique to St. Louis. And there's nothing like this in the country, what we're planning to do. Tim and I and Brian, we've gone around and looked at different arenas. We've been to Texas. We've been all over to look at different, quote, entertainment districts. And we feel that we're going to have a unique opportunity. Fortunate that Topgolf came in, iFly's coming in, main events coming in. So we will have entertainment for all segments. So Brian, let's sit back and relax and let's imagine what we can create here today.
That's great. Thank you, Michael. Tim Lowe is now going to speak with us about the development of the district.
Thank you, Brian. So first of all, to add a little bit on to what Michael had indicated and described, and he did it very well, is, this really became an opportunity for us to try to figure out what to do. As Michael indicated, when the Todmans approached us and asked us if there was any way that we would, could make a deal and take it over, they realized at that point in time what everybody already knew in St. Louis, which was 2 outlet malls will not work in Chesterfield Valley. So ultimately, Michael and I were challenged with the idea of create another solution. What would you do? And if you look at this page, one of the things that we kind of did at the very beginning is we started to try to think, what would a redevelopment strategy be? You already had an outlet mall in the valley, so the outlet mall wasn't the option. You already had Chesterfield Commons, and as Michael indicated, it is, the largest outlet mall, or the largest strip center probably in the U.S. It does about $1 billion, $800 to $1 billion worth of volume, and it was not something that we would be able to compete with. And the mall at the time was still alive, though limping along, and we had to come up with a new strategy, a strategy that worked. So we looked at a lot of different metrics, from the size of the market to Chesterfield as more of a super regional location, and looking at the sales volumes there. We looked at the demographics relative to, who lived in Chesterfield and who used the valley and how many cars drove through the valley and what was in the valley, from soccer and baseball and hockey and all the different, events that happen, to, all the corporate office population that's looking for, various vehicles. And we came up with the idea of creating the entertainment venue. As Michael indicated, we started with the entertainment district and ultimately came up with a district. But a lot of it really started with Topgolf. And when you look in the entertainment industry and you look at who the drivers are, Topgolf is probably the #1 entertainment retailer in the United States. And they were really the draw for us. So if you can flip, Sarah, to the next slide. And this just gives you a little bit of perspective as far as the different phases. So everybody knows it was never our intent to develop the district all in one phase. We actually put it into 3 different phases. And right now we're implementing phase 1. And phase 1 has a couple of components. The first component, as Michael indicated, was as we went after Main Event. Main Event is probably the premier family entertainment venue in the United States, headquartered out of Dallas, 50 or so locations. They had been looking at the market, didn't know where to go. And we convinced them that Chesterfield Valley would be the ideal location to not only draw from St. Louis County, but also draw from St. Charles County. So ultimately Main Event elected to come in. They are located on the east side of the property. There was a couple of buildings that were there. We tore the buildings down in order to accommodate them. And if you look at the site plan shown on the screen, you can see them kind of on the right side of the property next to the former club fitness space. The other key component was the music venue. And ultimately, between Michael and Brian, they came up with the idea of creating the Factory. And the Factory really is that new music venue that's going to serve, the western portion of St. Louis and St. Charles County. And Michael and Brian can talk about it a little bit later. But those two, as Michael indicated, those were the dumbbells that really anchored the project. In addition to those 2 components, if everybody has noticed, we've painted the center, not completely, but we've at least painted the front, and really tried to change the look and the feel of what the center looks like today. So phase 1 really winds up being taking the 48 acres, and Taubman had built about 300,000 square feet of space, had a capacity to build more, and just starting to rework the space, put in Main Event, and then take the expansion area that they created with all of the parking around it on the west side and adding the Factory. So why don't we flip to the next slide? So the next slide is phase 2. And in phase 2, which we're not in yet, that makes the assumption that the Factory has opened, Main Event has opened, and ultimately the next component for us was really building that front door. Where is the gathering spot? Where do we meet? Where do we all dine? Where do we sit outside and enjoy ourselves? And ultimately, as everybody, Polo will be relocating to the Simon Outlet Center. And once Polo relocates, it's an opportunity for us to tear the Polo building down and really create this outdoor, we call it the pavilion area. And it's really an opportunity for us to create an outdoor area with seating, with a stage for performances and marketing events, maybe some fire pits, outdoor activities, and then take all of the retail space that adjoins it around it and convert it into restaurant space with outdoor seating. So ultimately, phase 2 is really bringing in that front door, that gathering spot, center court. And that will be the location where there'll be a lot of outside activity, from events and different, things to, up to 6 restaurants with outdoor seating areas that really can provide some activity and some energy to that location. So why don't we flip to the next? So this is really phase 3. And in phase 3, which is ultimately down the line, what we've assumed is the Factory is open and operating, Main Event is opening and operating. And then we've done phase 2, which is inserting this restaurant kind of area with an outdoor, the outdoor pavilion area. And then ultimately the retail that surrounds that area, which is a little over 150,000 square feet, really converting that into entertainment uses. And that can be anything from comedy clubs, cigar club, catering, escape rooms, esports, a number of different possibilities, but taking the existing space and converting it from traditional retail and apparel to more experiences, tenants that fit that environment where people are looking to do something. They want to be entertained. And then next to Main Event, the buildings that exist today as part of phase 3 would get torn down. And we've looked at a number of different options. And if you look at the plan on the screen, the plan shows you a fairly large box. That box is really just there to show what the opportunity is. And it gives you about a 90,000 square foot footprint to add anything from pickleball, sand volleyball, restaurants, outdoor games. I mean, we really see it as being not necessarily a building structure, but more of an outdoor area that could provide, amenities to the overall project, bringing in some of these outdoor activities that people look for that can use everywhere else they could come here for. So ultimately, that really creates kind of our phase 3 program. And between the 3 phases, we wind up in the end, at about 300 and something thousand square feet, could be close to 400,000 square feet, depending on how you divide it out. But it really gives us this market where we now have, great anchor locations that are all entertainment themed, from the factory to the restaurant wing, with the outdoor seating area, to Main Event, to the outdoor activities from pickleball to sand volleyball, esports, and then Top Golf. And as Michael indicated, iFly, hopefully iFly comes, but really creating all these really cool, unique entertainment destinations in really one location. So if you flip to the next one. So the next slide is really Main Event. If you've driven by the factory, you've seen, or the district, you've seen it. Main Event is under construction. They are, that upscale family retailer providing bowling, a rope course, laser tag, virtual reality, games, sports bar, pool tables, everything for the family. And you can see when you look at the kind of the collage of all the different activities, they really provide something for everybody. They are under construction right now. They plan to open in August of this year. They have opened in other markets with, restrictions on occupancy. They think they can do it. But ultimately, this is really going to be their number 1 location here in St. Louis, serving the entire market. You can flip to the next one. So this is the factory. And Michael, do you want to talk a little bit about the factory and what the factory all entails?
Sure. The factory is a 52,000 square foot facility. We went around the country to look at what kind of venue and the seating that we wanted to put in. And of course, everybody knows the competition in St. Louis. We have the Pageant, which has about 2,100 capacity. We have the Fox, which has 4,500 to 5,000. We have the Stiefel downtown, which has about 4,500 to 5,000. You have the Family Arena. And we said, what do artists want today? And what kind of area do they want to play in? And we came up with a 3,000 capacity venue. Brian and I went to DC. We went to New Jersey, Brooklyn. We went to Austin, Texas. We went to Dallas, Texas. And so we looked at everything and we decided that we'd have a capacity of 3,000 people. It would allow the artists to have an intimate experience, yet allow us to have a great concert feel. And we did this with a great design. We hired an architect out of San Antonio that has designed 15 of these type of facilities. And we really came up with something that's unique. One of the things that makes us unique is that we have adequate parking, high security, ingress and egress off the highway. And you can see who's playing by our electronic reader board. And we'll have a lot of amenities. So if you want to go to a show and you're always looking for a place to eat before, hang out afterwards, we're going to have it at the district. So one of the things is that what we wanted, we have taken great strides in the number of bars that we have, to how the bars serve people, to the number of restrooms and facilities like this, the green rooms, the trucks coming in and out for the band, because don't forget, the performers know what they like. And we have an opportunity to have something that is unique. We've had a lot of people throughout the United States from Live Nation, Anschutz Entertainment Group. They've all come and they said, well, how did you do this? This is our first time doing this. And I said, imitation is the greatest form of flattery. We were able to figure out what you did right and what you could have done better. And we changed things. And I believe we have the nicest facility. Believe me, we have spent hours on just the rise and run of the seats, the leg room, the type of seats. the sound system, the lighting system. We want to make sure that the performers have great green rooms. They have an area for themselves that they can hang out with. So we've done every nuance that we could think of. And I think I'm going to be really kind of happy with the art I picked. I'm kind of like in art these days. And we have picked some really cool art besides that. And so we really thought about everything about how to make the customer experience exceed everyone's expectation. And I have a great partner in Brian Karp. Brian knows this business, and I kept saying no, and he kept saying, well, you have to do this. Okay, we'll do this. And so we've had a great collaboration and a partnership. And we are really excited because, if COVID hadn't hit April 15th, we could be open. So people say, Sam Page was there today, and Brian was very diplomatic. And he said, when do you think, one of his people with him said, when do you think you're going to open? And Brian said, of course, Sam will determine that. But I'm hoping by July 1st. Bands are starting to gear up now, and we've had a lot of interest in the July area, probably closer to August. But more importantly, Tim mentioned we have catering as part of this. We can seat on the main floor 650 people for a sit-down dinner, and an intimate facility, roping off the top, putting curtains up there so you can't tell, sound system, big screen dropping down from the stage. So we have a lot of things, not just for that. And one of the reasons we didn't call it the Music Factory is because we might have a motivational speaker, we might have an esports, we might have whatever in there that wants to use it. Right now, we've been approached by 20 nonprofits that would like to have their charity events there. So we've planned it for it's a multi-purpose, but not multi-purpose that will take away from the music or the way we want things done. Security is important to us. We have the best security system that we could find. We have the best POS system. We're going cashless there, but we'll have an ATM machine because I didn't realize that merchandise is sold on cash. The artists want cash. They don't want people buying for credit cards. So we've really looked at everything and taken this time with COVID and everything else to determine that we haven't missed anything. Of course we will, but we've learned from other people's opportunities, and we really have this. So we will have 3,000 people in there as a max, some standing room only, tables, chairs, theater seats, so there won't be anything anybody's missing. We even put a smoking lounge on the second floor, so we've tried to eliminate anybody who, has an issue with smoking outside. So it's just not on the ground level. And we'll have VIP parking. We'll have a dedicated Uber and Lyft area. So we've really tried to think of everything that can be done to make this district #1 in the United States. The big question people say to me is, do you want to do another one? And I always tell everybody I'm good. I think one is good enough to start with, and we'll see how we do. So that's really the factory. Proud of it. Have had a lot of groups through. A lot of entertainers, St. Louis entertainers have been through, and they said there's not a nicer facility they've seen in the United States. And I can only wish and hope the sooner we can get people in to see it, the happier we'll be. And it's just magnificent. And I want to thank Brian for his efforts and Tim for helping me put this together, because it was a team effort, and Darren Rittenauer, because we have the A team on this, and I'm really proud of what we accomplished.
Sarah, could you go to the last slide so we can just kind of wrap this up? Yeah, here's a good slide. So to kind of put it all together, and I think Michael, made a good point about how, kind of this plays together. And obviously, the factory will be completely unique in St. Louis, completely different, and really exciting that it is here at the district. But just to give you a little sense of how this all got put together, as everybody knows, Music Factory, the factory and Main Event, we're national tenants, or they're deals that you can make. A lot of the entertainment users that we've talked to, they're hard to make deals with because they're just not big rent payers. So one of the advantages on the project of the district is we were able to reuse most of the existing buildings. And that's a real advantage for us because, not having to build new buildings gives us a lot more flexibility on bringing in really unique and one-of-a-kind tenants that really add to the feeling that we're trying to create, you know, of the district and the entertainment feel. Also being able to take advantage of the 21 or 2,200 parking spaces that Taubman built, which is far more than they would have needed, but allowed for expansion, really gives us a 7-to-1 parking ratio at the district, which is something you don't find very often. And we really tried to kind of put a lot of that extra space around the factory because they're going to obviously be the beneficiary of taking advantage of it. But when you look at the rendering that's on the screen, and again, this was just kind of a conceptual rendering, it won't actually look like this. But the idea was, and what you can hopefully get away from was, is this is really kind of that center area that we're going to create, that center pavilion area where there can be a stage and fire pits and grass and outdoor activities and outdoor seating with restaurants, but really creating this dynamic kind of really cool outdoor setting that really can become the front door of the district, excuse me, and accommodate, you know, those that want to have a cocktail after they go to the factory, those who want to have dinner beforehand. But it really helps us with an offering that we can create that is something unique. This isn't about duplicating a lot of the, you know, the fast food restaurants that are in the Chesterfield Commons. It's about bringing in, you know, new and unique and local restaurants that can really, you know, contribute to that entertainment theme, providing, you know, games and different things that kind of go with it. So this is really a good kind of view of ultimately what it can look like. And again, we're putting a lot of the different pieces in, but I think when you see all the pieces put together, you'll get an understanding of exactly what the district is and exactly how strong of an entertainment draw that will be for this market.
That's great. Thank you, both Tim and Michael, for the overview of the project. We're happy to take questions from the group if you'd like to add those into the chat. And we do have some questions that we're going to ask of the panelists as well. First, we'll start back with Michael Staenberg. Michael, can you speak a little bit about the shift in retail for developments like this in the future and your thoughts on entertainment playing an integral part in those new developments?
You know, if you look at retail, the retail world has really changed in the last, even before COVID. There was less and less retailers, you know, people are more online, and people want to go out and have an experience. You know, they like shopping online, but they also want to touch it, feel it, and understand it, and they want to have a place to hang out. You know, malls used to be the place to hang out. Tim, you know, for 25 years was convincing everybody that malls were the place to hang out. Well, I'm not sure they're the place to hang out anymore because they don't have that entertainment opportunity. They don't have that interactive opportunity. They don't have that social opportunity. And so, you know, you need that. And you also need ingress and egress. It's easy. You also have to have walkability. You have to have a lot of things that, you know, we live in St. Louis. We don't live in Newport Beach, California, where it's, you know, 70 degrees every day of the year and it's beautiful. But we have covered areas, we have misters, we have things to help soften the weather opportunity that we have and the snow and things like that. So we really, you know, Taubman helped us by the design of the overhangs and everything they do. So we do have a lot of shade and things that we can use. And as Tim said, you know, this has evolved, but, you know, Tim sent me an email today that says, you know, look what we started 3 years ago. The design really isn't much different. And I really hadn't thought about it, but it really isn't. So, you know, maybe we're the smartest people in the room, but maybe the luckiest people that we were able to figure out how to start with the barbells and work our way in. And I'm proud of what we thought about. But again, one of the keys to me about retailing is there's no rules anymore. You know, I remember, you know, all these stores that were online now want to have a physical presence. You know, Lululemon, Allbirds, Bonobos, Suit Supply, you know, all these places. And we, you know, every Monday morning we talk about the dinosaurs. Is Macy's going to make it? Is Dillard's going to make it? Is Nordstrom's going to make it? I don't know. But people like smaller shops. They want to be able to touch. They want to be able to hang out and feel what they're doing. You know, it was great when they, in the 90s and the early 2000s, when I was building my Walmart, you built a Walmart, you put 30,000 feet of small shops, and you had 3 or 4, you know, mini anchors. Well, those mini anchors are no longer there. So you have to be creative. And, you know, a lot of the malls we look at in the United States, and we bought several malls. What we're going to do is tear down half and figure out what to do with the rest. Residential is a popular thing, office, distribution. So we're always trying to figure out how, you know, retail is evolving. The pandemic just sped up the evolution. And so, and then, next year it'll be something else. So we're pleased by what we have here. We had a nice blank slate to start with. Tim mentioned we had a lot of buildings that we could use. We had a right economic deal. We had plenty of parking. It was graded. The city of Chesterfield understands us and understands what we need. And, Mike Doster, who's on this too, could, help us, because I hired Mike Doster in 1995 and to help me to get the zoning in Chesterfield. And Chesterfield is not the easiest place in America to get something done. Tim's found out that, I went to, when I was doing Chesterfield Commons, 69 Monday nights in a row before I got my zoning approval. Mike Doster and I became very good dating partners for those 69 days. So Mike, why don't you try to help us understand the process of what we've gone through in Chesterfield?
I would be happy to, Mike. Thank you. Well, it was quite different on the south side of Highway 40. We had, frankly, a number of zoning battles to get the original zoning in place. The valley was changing at that time from what used to be agriculture and sleepy business to the major retail center that it is today. But we didn't have that kind of battle with respect to the retailtainment center that you're developing now, because we had some advantages. One is the city came to know the Staenberg Group and its people, its resources, its ability to do what it said it was going to do. So the city had a lot of confidence in what the Staenberg Group was proposing for the retail attainment center. The zoning was already in place. We actually represented Taubman when they developed the original outlet mall. And so the zoning with the appropriate uses was already in place. We did not have to rezone. The city saw a failing outlet mall and wanted something done about it, so that the city was motivated. The city liked the idea that Michael and Brian and Tim have described so well, was very attractive to the city. We had one problem, and that was signage. Many communities, including Chesterfield, absolutely prohibit electronic message boards and have limitations on size and height, which is a problem. You need signage in a retail attainment center like this, and it can't just be ordinary run-of-the-mill signage. It has to announce to the world what's going on there. As Michael indicated earlier, it's got to announce the acts, the groups, the bands that are coming, and it's got to be attractive. So we, Tim and I and Michael, spent a lot of time coming up with a regulatory scheme that would permit the electronic message freestanding board that you see out there today. It's very attractive. I think it's unique. It's one of a kind in the area as far as I know, and we practice in a lot of municipalities in the area. So ordinarily you wouldn't look at a sign package and say that that's something that the land use lawyer would spend a lot of time on, but we had to work with the city to develop a code with standards and regulations that would allow the city to judge these types of signs as they came in. And so we think we have a sign package that fits the theme of the center. I think the city is pleased with it, and it will do a lot to help bring business to the center and also make the center attractive. Signs can be attractive. They're not necessarily a detriment just because they're a sign. So that was really the focus of our effort with respect to this redevelopment at the district. I don't know if there was anything else you wanted me to touch on or not, Michael.
No, I think that's, great. And Mike has been a valued partner of ours because we needed someone who was an honest broker the city believed in that would, actually represent our interest and the city's interest. Mike and I have worked together since 1995, and we spent a lot of time with building the relationship with Chesterfield. One thing, we bought the mall from a group that thought they were going to do something with the city, and the city said, well, we'll see you in about 10, 15 years. And I like the city of Chesterfield, but they're unique and they have their own process. And if you're not from the area and understand the county and the city relationship and the highway, you're not going to get there. So we're fortunate to have Mike on our team to understand that. And, I never thought we'd get the electronic sign. I really didn't. I mean, this is the first electronic sign on 64 ever. And I shouldn't say ever, probably since the 50s or 60s. And that was really important to us. So people could drive by, even though you only get to see it for 7 seconds, unless you have traffic that day, to see who's playing. And we took pride in it, and we spent a lot of time researching it. Tim Lowe did a very nice job of talking to all the sign companies. I have a very good friend that built the signs in New York, Times Square. And he's too big for us, but he helped us with the pixels and the number of lights and the way it rotates and how it should be up. And we spent a lot of time, and Lou Chiodini and his group have done a very nice job of helping us. A little plug for Lou and his group, Michael, for, the design. That you talked about earlier. Mike helped me keep me out of jail when I started painting the facility. I just said, well, we're just going to paint it. And he says, don't you think we should get a permit from the city? And I said, no, they'll be okay. They'll like it. Well, certainly they didn't. They said, do you have a permit? I said, I don't know if you have a permit you need to paint anything. So we figured it out. But that's one of the things of having some ability to have a Mike Doster on your team. So thank you, Mike, for all your work.
Thank you, Mike, for your kind remarks. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Michael and Mike, for that overview. That's terrific. Michael mentioned Chiodini as being one of the partners in the design and development. Tim, can you speak with who else was involved in the St. Louis community and from outside of the community? That's one of the questions that came up in the chat.
I think that a lot of different groups participated, not necessarily architectural firms, but, one of the things that we did as we put this together was we reached out to a lot of, entertainment type tenants, a lot of different groups, a lot of experts. This was something that was rather unique. And one of the things that I think you'll find, and Michael touched upon this, but everybody wants to add retail. Today, the new buzzword is how are you going to fix them all? We're going to add retail, or we're going to add entertainment. And adding entertainment to retail is not necessarily the answer. Taking an existing shopping mall and putting an entertainment anchor on the end might do well for the entertainment anchor, but it doesn't necessarily help the shopping mall. And we spent a lot of time trying to figure out how does an entertainment district work, and talking to various entertainment tenants, talking to Topgolf. Interestingly enough, when we first talked to Topgolf, they told us in their first year they did 30 to 40% of corporate business, which surprised us. We didn't realize the amount of corporate business in Chesterfield. And when we found that out, that was something that really helped push Main Event over the line, realizing that there's a corporate, that amount of corporate business exists. So, beyond the Chiodinis and obviously Keystone is a contractor that's actually located in Chesterfield and very involved in Chesterfield. And Bill Hardy, who runs it, was very instrumental in helping us, kind of put the vision together and how does the vision work and what does the vision cost? And, the Keystone guys out of Chesterfield were the ones who built it. They did a great job. And between Chiodini and Keystone, I think they became kind of the core team of helping us implement. But there was a lot of other groups out there, as Michael indicated. We went around the country and we looked at entertainment venues. We looked at music venues. We looked at entertainment, users. And we really wanted to make sure we understood the market before we pursued this to make sure that we hit it right.
Michael, one of the questions that came up in the chat is if you could repeat the name of the sign developer that you worked with to.
It's Steve Ellman, but I don't know, who did we work with, Tim?
Well, what happened is, let me help that Michael out. What we did is, because, we didn't want to just put up a standard, reader board that you typically see. We wanted something much more dramatic and much more classy. So we talked to a number of the, what we'll call the professional sign guys that do, Times Square and things like that. And one of Michael's friends happened to do a lot of the reader boards in Times Square. He just gave us advice, helping us try to understand what's the right type of sign. We spent a lot of time looking at the quality and looking at the pixelization as far as how would it look. We actually had a truck come out there, park on the site, and give us various options so we could really understand how it felt. But ultimately, Sign Crafters here in St. Louis was the sign company that built the sign for us.
That's great. one of the other things that came up was the timeline of phases 1, 2, and 3. Michael or Tim, would you like to address that for the group?
Well, we're doing good on phase 1. Tim, you better figure out phase 2 and 3 now. So my job's over.
We needed to do phase 1 to make phase 2 and 3 successful. You could have not done phase 2 and phase 3 without phase 1. So, any development project, and I think Michael said it earlier, you start out with your anchors. Who are your key anchor tenants that are going to drive business to the site? We already had Topgolf, and Topgolf was the #1 driver, but adding Main Event and adding the factory really created 3 dominant entertainment users that are going to bring people to the property. So phase 2 is underway right now. Espolo is in the process of relocating. We will eventually, when they ultimately move, take their building, we'll tear it down. We're going to build this new outside area we talked about, and then ultimately convert the retail space into restaurant space to be able to open up this really dynamic, kind of creative, outdoor seating area for these restaurants. And that's probably a year and a half off. Ultimately, I think you'll see that opening probably in 23. And phase 3 is really, really dependent upon the user. We have the ability to create that 90,000 square foot pad next to Main Event. But again, it depends on the right user. We're not going to tear the buildings down until we have the right user to use it. And we're out in the market today talking to all of the, the really creative pickleball guys and the people who can do the sand volleyball, all of those groups that can put together something that can work. So phase 3, could be a year or 2 off, could be 3 or 4 years off. It really depends upon the user and picking the right user to implement the right strategy.
And Tim, another question from the group. How do you feel that this development plays into the eventual development of Chesterfield Mall?
That's a great question, because one of the things that we looked at very early on is we didn't want to compete with Chesterfield Mall. And one of the reasons why we initially got involved in Chesterfield, not only because we thought it was a great opportunity to create a new urban, downtown district with, a lot of density, but also because we didn't want to have multiple entertainment projects in Chesterfield. And the thing that I think that's interesting, and you look at other markets, there are entertainment venues, there are Main Events, there are Topgolfs, there are music venues, but they're all located in various parts of the city, and they really become a trip on their own. This is our chance. And one of the reasons why we wanted to own Chesterfield Mall and control our own destiny is we really wanted to push all the entertainment users into one location. And I think the really unique thing about the district is this is the one entertainment venue in the entire country where you have Main Event, Topgolf, the factory, the music venue, and all the different entertainment guys in one location. This isn't about driving around the city for Main Event or for the music. This is about putting everybody out there, all of the entertainment users, in one spot and creating that really dynamic, strong entertainment venue that can really draw from all over the St. Louis metropolitan market.
Thank you. Michael, another question that came up in the chat is, were there thoughts of adding an office building to the project?
And I'm not very good. I'm like 0 for 15 on office buildings. If someone wants to think about that, they can. In our original design, before we decided to do the factory, we had the factory and we had an office building with a parking garage. And we made the conscious decision that there's plenty of office availability throughout the Chesterfield. We'll have some at the mall. That's, as Tim said, one of the things we didn't want to do is compete with ourselves. So at the mall, we have 80 acres and we have plenty of opportunity to build office buildings there. And we really want to keep this more of a entertainment district with some retail that will, that will change the factors of what we're trying to do. So no, at this point, we would not entertain an office at all. We use the land for surface parking. We could probably go back and get a garage there, but I think I'm happy with the way it turned out. So unless something was tremendously economics for us, I would say no.
And if I can add to that, the thing that I think also is we really looked at it and looked at the opportunity. While we initially thought that we would create a multitude of uses in an office building could be a complementary use, what we soon realized is that, the same reason why we wanted to keep the district as a really strong, dynamic entertainment center, we didn't want to put an office building that basically would compete with Chesterfield Mall. And if you really look at the dynamics that we're trying to create, we'd like to take the office buildings and really create this dynamic, office development, as part of the redevelopment of Chesterfield Mall and not take office buildings and put them all around in different locations in the valley. So this was kind of a push for us to kind of push the office building out of the valley and put it at the mall site where we think it belongs.
That's great. One of the other questions that came up from Stacy in the chat was, are we planning a hotel? And I'll take that one. We wanted to let everybody know that there is a hotel development, a Residence Inn, that is currently being built in between Topgolf and the district project. So the need for that hotel is there. And I believe there are also about 15 hotels in the general vicinity of the factory, which plays into overnight stays from people coming in from the Chesterfield, or excuse me, the exterior areas all the way as far away as Columbia, because we feel that for the right concert and the right event at the factory, people are willing to travel, and we hope to get those overnight stays and that additional tax revenue for the Chesterfield area.
And don't forget, Brian, that we have the sports complex in Chesterfield. We have the ice rink. We have a lot of different other usages that are there. And don't forget, we're proud that we're right next to the levee with the bike trail. It's fantastic. In fact, when I was leaving town today, I saw two people riding their bikes thinking, these guys are crazy. It's raining, foggy. What am I missing here? I'm a big bike rider. But on weekends, we have a special 2 areas of parking so people can use that area to get onto the trail. So it's just not just shopping in Chesterfield. There's a lot of sports, soccer, baseball, a lot of different, hockey, as I mentioned, down the street. There's a lot of reasons for people to come the 100 miles to make this a destination. And that's really what we're trying to make it. So it's all inclusive, as Tim said. There's a lot of places throughout the United States that has a Topgolf, and then 2 miles away is a main event, or another place is this. So we're trying to really create, we're very selective. We're not just taking an axe throwing group that can pay us, X dollars to put them in, or a beer hall. We want to make sure we put the right people in. We're patient. This is a 10-year project. This wasn't something that we're just going to build and say, oh, we're going to flip it. This is not going to be sold. I still own Chesterfield Commons. And these are long-term projects. So we're here to stay, and the city respects that. That's one of the things they like. We opened in 1999, which is, I can't believe, 22 years ago with the Commons, and we're still there. We're still good partners with the city, support the city, and, want to see the city grow. So that's, kind of something that we really look at when we do these projects.
That's great. Well, I want to thank the panelists, Mike Doster, Michael Staenberg, and Tim Lowe, and all of you for participating in today's discussion. We're very excited to be able to present this project to you, and I will throw it back to Sarah for final comments.
Thank you so much, Brian, and thank you again to our panelists. It was really extraordinary hearing about this exciting development. As a St. Louis native and someone who truly believes in the city, I am just overjoyed about this project and can't wait to see it come to fruition. Again, thank you to everyone who attended. We cannot do our work without all of you, so thank you so much for your participation. I know it's not easy getting on Zoom, with Zoom fatigue being a very real thing. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. I will be sending out a recording to all those who registered for today's event, so it will be made available to all of you. With that, I think we are wrapping up. So again, thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you guys at our next event.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys.
Thanks, everyone.